Okay, so we're going to be taking the engine out of this Golf. This is my messy garage. It's not even a messy garage, just a shelter at the moment. But we're going to be doing this video. I'm going to try and show you as best as possible how to remove an engine from one of these. See another one I've got in the background? That one there? That one is going to be also for braking. It's going to be on the channel as well. So we've got lots of Mark V videos coming up. But now we're going to try and take an engine out of this one. If you're going to work on the floor like I'm working, be a good idea to get yourself a set of knee pads, because you are going to be up and down and off the floor. So top tip, how about that? Let's go. Okay, so in this video we're going to be removing the engine and gearbox from the Golf Mark V. So let's start off with the simple stuff. Jack up the car and put it on axle stands, safety first. We're going to be under the car quite a bit, so just, you know, normal safety precautions. You must have seen me do this in other videos. If you haven't, have a look. If you need me to make a video of exactly how to do it, please request that in the comments section. So try and make your car as safe as possible. I know this isn't the official way to do it, but it's what I had. So we're going to start with the basics by opening up the bonnet and draining out the fluids underneath the car. Now get your bucket or whatever you've got, and draining plug is pretty easy. Now some of your cars might have an undershield on it. This one didn't. If it has, just take it off. It's really that easy. As you can see, I'm dropping it off. Make sure you collect all this stuff in somewhere decent, like a good bucket, and dispose of it correctly, because we're going to be taking a lot of fluids out. So to do this removal, we're going to have to remove the front bumper. Once again, that video will be in the link in the description. You can see there's a few screws here, but like I said, you can find that all in the other video. Now the way this car works is that it has almost like a front subframe or front skeleton, and all of the front parts of the car is attached to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove that and then remove the engine front ways, drawing out the front. Some other people can drop it down or take it up, but the Volkswagens are made in a way which is quite decent. So we've got to remove this dog mount connector and also the one behind it, which I forgot to film. Apologies on my part. But basically we're trying to disconnect everything around the engine. So underneath the radiator here, this is the intercooler that goes in with a clip and then just eases out, clip in the metal collar. Don't forget to lose your bits and pieces if you're putting your car back together. And it's the same on the other side. Now I'm going to be honest with you that this is going to be the most challenging part, just undoing all the clips and undoing all the cables. Some of them are kind of worn. You may have a few broken ones. A couple might be seized. So really and truly, the bulk of the work is just disconnecting. As you can see, I'm draining the coolant. If you're going to reuse it, you can reuse it. But like I said before, the main bulk of this video is just disconnecting things. And I can't show you every single one, but I'm giving you a good guide on what you need to do. So we're removing the front panel, so everything attached to that front panel has to be disconnected. So as you can see, this front panel is held on with those 4 solid bolts there. Can you see that? Just trying to show you. I believe they're 15mm. But yeah, they're the main bolts that hold this structure on. And we've got a few at the top as well. So as you can see, I'm removing a few Torx screws at the top. This had been repaired by someone else and they just threw away bolts. So I had some missing matching, but the locations are all exactly the same. So we're just undoing those, screwing them off. And then it's down to the big ones at the front. Now, if I was you trying to do this job, it is a lot easier getting an impact socket like I've got here. This impact screwdriver, I think it cost me £130, but it's worth its weight in gold. You've seen it in other videos of mine, and it's just brilliant. If you really want to preserve the life of these, you should have a breaker bar just to crack it, crack the nuts open, and then just use this to do the little tedious back and forth motions. So we're proceeding with removing the front of this car. And when we remove that, the whole front of the headlights will come out. If you're really good and really lucky, it will come out with the radiator. But I got a bit tired and frustrated and just ended up taking them off separately, but you'll see that shortly. So we've got the bonnet cable here. This is the cable that opens the bonnet. Just unclips in the casing and then unhooks. Really, really easy, simple stuff. There you go. Just make sure it's separate and you know it's not holding together when you put it on. Now, like I said, I've had to separate the radiator from the actual front panel itself. So these are the Torx bolts. I believe they're Torx 25 or Torx 30. Just have a Torx kit available. And these are held in by 4 screws. Fortunately for me, the air conditioning radiator had already been degassed. So I didn't show it in the video, but it's been degassed. So I was a bit lucky. You may have to degas yours, else you will lose your gas. So here it is, the whole front panel coming off. Just showing you here. Now, as you would expect, there are a few wires still holding it there. Just one in the corner here. It was actually a cable tie from the person who had it before. It was a really dodgy repair, but you know, these things happen. So there's my front panel. You can see it's pretty exposed at the front now. So now on to removing the radiator. Just remove the clips that are there. I couldn't photograph every shot, but take off what you can. The air conditioning connector was a little bit corroded and it caused a bit of a mess. Now you're going to see here what happens when you get a bit tired and you get a bit frustrated with undoing these clips. What happens is it slips out of your hand and knocks oil everywhere. So that peed me off no end. But it's just one of those things. So just try and be careful with what you're doing. I wasn't putting this car back together, so I was able to be a little bit more rough than I would usually be with the wire side of things. But obviously you're going to have to take care of it as best as possible if you intend to replace an engine or gearbox. So now we're pretty open and exposed and we can get into the engine. It's just about removing more wires, more connecting things that are attached to the engine. Now, I think it's best you get a few tools like a proper set of pliers, not these ones, a proper pair. Anything that makes your job easier, because this is what's really going to take most of the time removing the engine, because the actual mechanical moving on it is really not that hard. There's just a couple of little touchy moments. So remove your air box and anything that's in the way. Once again, I've got another impact socket there, another godsend. Absolutely fantastic if you're doing anything like this. It cuts the time by at least a third because it's tedious taking off them screws. So I'm just having a little moment, whinging to myself, cleaning up the mess that I've made. But it is what it is. This is what happens. Looking outside, contemplating I should be outside instead of inside. But, you know, we've got to make videos and we've got to show people how to do this. And I thought it'd be a great thing to share. So this is actually underneath the car, and there's the turbo and that clamp right in the middle which holds the exhaust onto the turbo. Now I like this design, to be honest. You're going to need an Allen key, and that one Allen key and that clamp is what holds the turbo onto the exhaust, which for me is better than the Mark IVs where it's slightly at an angle and you're doing it blind. I actually like this method and it's really I like it. I think it's a great idea. You're going to have a little bit of trickery getting it off, but just do what you can. Hammer, nail, you know, push and pull. You may have to release one of the clamps to really get a little shake on it, but I particularly like it. And you can see I've just lifted it up and it's unclamped. I know you'll be able to do it. So now we're going to continue removing things from the engine and gearbox itself. Now we're going to have to detach the drive shaft away from the gearbox. And the way we're going to do that is by removing the wheels and taking it from inside the actual gearbox itself. So remove both wheels, as you can see here, and proceed on to undoing the triple square bolts inside there. Now don't use a Torx screwdriver. Make sure to use the correct part. As you can see, I'm just rotating it with a screwdriver to find where I need to be, and then I put the screwdriver in just to lock it in, so when it comes to me undoing it, it doesn't turn. So I always use this method where I put it, once I've locked it in, I crack it with the hand ratchet here. There you go. That's nice and done. Now, if you don't have the Torx, the correct item, it will spin out. So just make sure you got the right one. So I'm just loosening it there. And then you continue to spin it around and methodically just remove them. You'll be trying to detach everything from the engine so that we can pull it out pretty freely. So on the other side, I'm using the impact socket. I would suggest cracking it first, like I said before. I mean, this is just my method and my teachings, but I do find it's better and safer to do it that way, because you avoid the chance of chewing out things and missing things and breaking things, because some of them aren't not approved or built for impact sockets. So I always crack it first, then loosen the rest. So once everything's disconnected from the engine, you've disconnected all your bars and everything you can see underneath, your dog mounts, your drive shafts. Now it's time to start pulling out the engine. So we're using the engine hoist just to take a bit of weight off of the brackets themselves, and then we just disconnect the brackets. See a couple of shots with the impact socket, and you're there really. Here you go. So they're out. And there's two more on the other side, which I did start to loosen, but look, this is the last little bit I'm doing. And once again, this is just the beauty of having an impact socket. There you go. Now that the engine is released from the chassis itself, just going around checking if there's any more sockets or if there's anything I can't quite grab. Now there's me realizing I left something, a bolt underneath, which was the other dog mount bolt, which I forgot to video. But once you've done that, it's just about dragging it out. Now, once again, I wasn't repairing this car, I was actually braking this car. A lot of times people just cut everything, but I chose to pull off what I could. So it's just about easing it out now. Now, there's probably going to be a couple little wires which you've missed or you couldn't reach at the time, but they're all there and they're all ready to be taken off. There you go. Look, I'm getting a bit frustrated here because it took me all day. But it didn't really take me all day, it was just tedious. So like I said, take off what you can, and then you should end up with your engine basically looking like this. Once you're done, slip it into the back of the Mark IV, and there you go, ready for the next customer. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to comment, rate and subscribe to the channel. And please let me know what you think about the new intro.